Hi, everyone. Welcome back to your watch and work this week. We're going to take a look at different students and school practices and examine whether or not the teacher should be worried, whether or not the school should be worried. And if they are worried, is it because of a learning disability? And if it is because of a learning disability, what are some things we can do? So it's going to be very important for you to have watched that specific learning disability video to have some context and also make sure you've done your reading. Let's go ahead and jump on in. The first one is Mariah. This is Mariah. Mariah is in the second grade and is 7 years old. She is able to read basic CVC words. However, she will often invert her letters when writing and read words backwards, meaning that she switches the letters around or puts them backwards. When she was little, she loved going to school. She enjoyed completing puzzles and working, drawing maps and building with blocks. Recently, she was assessed at school for additional support. She now makes comments about not being smart and struggles with wanting to go to school. So my question to you is, should we be worried? If so, about what? Okay. Yeah, we should be worried. Mariah is behind in her reading. She's in her reading development and she's struggling with self-esteem. We know that children reading CBC words are more at the age of 5 and 6. We also know that she probably shouldn't be inverting her letters or reading her words backwards at this point in time. My next question to you is, could she have a learning disability? And she could. She might have dyslexia. So what could we do about it to help Mariah? Okay, Mariah could have some formal reading instruction, right? That ability. Remember, we talked about different kinds of reading instruction between decoding and whole word reading approaches. She obviously needs a little bit more understanding of the rules. So that phonics approach is going to be more beneficial for Mariah. We're also going to make sure we focus on her strengths. So going back to Gardner's multiple intelligence, she has a lot of spatial strengths. We want to make sure she sees them and she has some ability to recognize her strengths and really capitalize on those for her to build her self-esteem. All right, next one, Marcus. Marcus is in the 5th grade and is 10 years old. He hates doing math homework. He would rather be playing with Pokemon. He can rote count and has memorized his addition and subtraction math problems within 20. However, he struggles with conceptualizing math and manipulating quantities. So should we be worried? If so, about what? Yeah, we should be worried. Marcus is behind level in math. We know that by the time you're 10 years old, you should have some pretty significant, pretty comprehensive abilities to manipulate numbers 1 through 1,000. You should be working on some fractions at that point in time. So the fact that he's still working within 20 and using a rote memorization is concerning. Could Marcus have a learning disability? Yeah, he might have dyscalculia. That's the ability, kind of that inability to conceptualize math problems. What can we do about it? We could provide him specialized support with an IEP, possibly if he qualifies, individual education plan under IDA, right? And we can also incorporate his fund of interest. He likes Pokemon a lot, so why don't we utilize that to make him more motivated to engage in his math problems? All right, let's move on. This is Dimitri. Dimitri lives on a farm. He helps his family out by feeding the animals, collecting the eggs from the chickens, and weighing the animals. He's in the 4th grade and has just started working on fractions and word problems. He's starting to understand the concepts, but is having a hard time connecting the word problems about city life. So a lot of his problems are kind of irrelevant to him. So should we be worried? And if so, about what? Perhaps we should be worried. He's not too far behind. He's just having a hard time seeing himself in the curriculum and connecting to it. So could he have a learning disability? He probably doesn't. He's just having a hard time feeling seen in the curriculum, right? And making a connection. So what could we do? We could utilize his funds of knowledge, going back to making sure it's culturally relevant to him. We could start talking about math problems with farm animals, having him understand that what he's already using in his daily life, he can connect to what he's learning now. All right, one more. Araceli. Araceli is emerging bilingual and in the 1st grade. She has been learning English for about 9 months. She's making progress but is not fluent yet. The school has placed her in special education services to support her English language development. My question to you is, should we be worried? If so, about what? Yeah, we should be worried, but not about Araceli. Araceli is a sequential bilingual. Remember, we learned about the idea of learning one language and then the next. And when you do that, it can take 1 to 5 years to learn the next language. So she's perfectly within developmental range at this point in time. However, we should be worried about the school. She doesn't qualify for special education. She doesn't actually have a disability. Could she have a disability? We don't really have enough information to determine that. I don't think she does based on what we know here. She's learning language at the appropriate pace. But we don't know for sure. So what could we do differently? Well, we definitely need to move her out of special education, right? We're segregating her based on the fact that she's emerging bilingual. She needs to go back into general education. We might want to consider an immersion program, so she's receiving both languages at the same time. and getting some assistance. So she's learning Spanish and English if that is the other language she speaks, or Russian and English, or whatever it might be. She should be able to be immersed in it and get some assistance there. But we definitely don't need to be putting her in special education just because she's learning 2 languages. All right, with that in mind, your watch and work is done. I hope it was helpful this week. If you need anything, any support or otherwise, please feel free to reach out. Otherwise, I will see you in the next module. Have a great week.